Hello everyone, it's Bound here, and welcome back to another video. Now, this has been a widely requested video for some time now, and it's how to deal with Calyrex-Shadow. Now, Calyrex-Shadow is the most used legendary in the current legendary format, and it pretty much always has been the most used restricted legendary in each restricted legendary format, Regulation G and Regulation I. So, that's mainly because of these stats, right? So you have the 165 base special attack, which is the highest in the format, as well as the highest speed, natural speed in the format, 150. And so that combined with a move called Astral Barrage, which is a 120 base power ghost move, can make it very hard to just switch into and revenge kill. So, but there's a few things you can do to deal with it, and I've just grabbed the 3 most common sets I've seen on the ladder, as well by reading top articles from the previous season on Regulation I. You can find different Calyrex-Shadows to counter by going to the sb.pokedb.tokyo and clicking on the Pokemon, and then if you scroll down you can see the top teams that use this Pokemon, and each having links to their own articles so you can see the sets and see what you need to deal with. So, as far as Tera types go, most of them are running Fairy and Grass, so that's important to keep in mind. You might see the occasional Ghost Tera to really push that power over the edge for the Astral Barrage. You might see a normal Tera, you might see Fighting, you might see a Ground, which Ground might increase later. I feel like Ground will increase more this season actually just because of the Miraidon usage right now, and that's what I'm going to be getting into. So the Focus Sash Calyrex-Shadow is the most common item used on this Pokemon at the moment. Very convincingly, 46% of them are running Focus Sash, and then you have the choice items, the Choice Scarf and the Choice Specs. But it's more likely to be Sash than anything else, including choice items. So it's more likely to be not locked in than it is, so that's important to know right there. So you have to be careful using resistances to Astral Barrage sometimes, just like, for example, Ting-Lu. So Ting-Lu is currently the most used Pokemon in the metagame, and that's for a good reason. It's just really strong, really bulky, gets good mileage out of the Assault Vest sets and Citrus Berry Hazard sets. Can use Stealth Rock and Spikes. Whirlwind is really good. Ruination just does constant damage no matter what. And so this Pokemon resists Astral Barrage, so that's why it's used as a common counter to Calyrex, or at least people think it counters it. Until you run into a Grass Knot or a Choice Specs Grass Tera Leaf Storm, for example. So Choice Specs with Grass Tera has been seeing a lot of usage, and that's mainly because of the Ting-Lus and also the Ursaluna Blood Moon as well. So Ursaluna Blood Moon is another Pokemon that falls victim to the grass coverage, being that ground and normal type. It does obviously immune Astral Barrage, but you have to be very careful still. Yeah, just because it doesn't have the best special defense as well. So that's where the Grass Tera can be very problematic. So you might be thinking, the easiest counterplay isn't easy anymore, so how do you deal with this Pokemon? Well, you have to be very careful with the Encore usage as well. So with all this in mind, the best counter, in my opinion, and the most straightforward one is Assault Vest Miraidon. And then you can also run Assault Vest on Koraidon. Only problem with Koraidon is that it has to Tera sometimes to deal with the Psychic and especially the Fairy, because especially some of them can be running like Fairy Tera Blasts. Koraidon has to fear that, even with an Assault Vest. Koraidon has to fear Specs Psychics as well. Specs Psyshocks especially. So, Assault Vest in general is a really good item as long as you're running it on a strong Pokemon. Because it can just take that hit from Calyrex-Shadow and retaliate back for 1 KO or very high amounts of damage. Even Ting-Lus run Assault Vest sometimes. You can run like EQ, Heavy Slam to block out. Or you want to at least have like the Throat Chop or a Dark type, any Dark type attack. Well, usually it's Payback actually. Payback is what they run. So Payback and Heavy Slam block out the Fairy Tera option, because Ting-Lu doesn't really take much from any Calyrex's options, even if it's like super effective if it's running Assault Vest especially. So these 3 moves are really good. You can run like Ruination or anything as the last one, like a Fairy Tera Blast even. Just to be able to deal with other team slots with the Calyrex as well, because that's important. You can't just deal with this Pokemon only. You have to deal with everything around it as well. So that's what the Assault Vest aims to do. It aims to just pressure anything in the back that tries to cover for the Calyrex-Shadow. So this is a very common use, and especially with that Electric Tera, it obviously makes because Calyrex can't really threaten any super effective things against Electric Tera, unless it's like a Ground Tera or Calyrex-Shadow, which, like I said, might increase due to the increased Miraidon, because Miraidon is number 3 in usage, I believe. So yeah, it's definitely increasing compared to season 30, which is the last season. I think Miraidon was like number 6, and then it just jumped up to number 3. So the Parabolic Charge is also really good at like dealing with the Calyrex face to face, which is like basically offense versus offense. Miraidon will win the matchup. Even against a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs Calyrex-Shadow, Miraidon can take this Miraidon right here can take 2 Choice Specs Astral Barrages and retaliate back with strong damage of its own, or even a 1-hit KO. Or yeah, Electric Drift can pretty much almost one shot, or except yeah, Electric Tera, Electric Drift, one shot to Calyrex-Shadow, unless that's like a sash or really bulky one. So yeah, that's really important to note right there. And then you have that U-turn. This is a really good option to pivot out because sometimes a lot of Calyrex-Shadows have the ground like coverage, or like the ground Pokemon as a fallback option. And so if you're having the U-turn instead of the Volt Switch, it can help you right there to conserve the HP for the Calyrex-Shadow. But a lot of it comes down to team building. So another option is obviously you can have like a Choice Scarf as well. So the 3 things that I like to talk about when dealing with Calyrex-Shadow, the 3 ways you can go about countering it: bulk, you have speed, or you have just offense. And this combines bulk and offense at the same time, because with the Assault Vest you get that bulk, and then you can just invest so much in that special attack, and then just deal so much damage in return. But you also have the speed option. So Choice Scarf. The only thing about Choice Scarf is that you have to make sure you lock into the right move, and locking into Choice Scarf Electro Drift or Choice Scarf Draco Meteor can be very risky at times, especially since both of these can be immune at certain situations. But the good thing is you can always outspeed most Calyrex-Shadows, because especially if you run like unless that Calyrex-Shadow is a Scarf, because some Calyrex-Shadows that are Scarf are running like the max speed, so it makes it impossible, or enough speed so that Miraidon can't outspeed it even if it's the fastest Scarf. So that makes it to where Miraidon has to fear, as Choice Scarf, Miraidon has to fear getting outsped, and which makes it harder for it to actually switch into Astral Barrage. It can only switch in once to Astral Barrage before it can actually do anything, and that's kind of the problem. But it's still a viable option, because only 20% of the Calyrex-Shadows are Scarf, I believe. So if we go back to the Calyrex-Shadow, yeah, only 20% are Scarf. So yeah, very important that you consider that as well. And then obviously the Tera types, we already talked about that. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about a Terrestrial metagame. You have to consider your counterplay getting countered by the Tera type. And so that's where the team building comes in. So for example, if you have a Miraidon that's Electric Tera, you want to have a fallback option against a potential Ground Tera Calyrex-Shadow. So that could be something like Miraidon plus Chien-Pao. So obviously Chien-Pao's Ice Shard can pick off a Calyrex-Shadow that's Tera Ground. So if you have like a Life Orb, that can probably just straight up one-shot a Calyrex-Shadow that's Tera Ground. If you go like a Focus Sash, there's a guarantee an Ice Cold Crash, and then in a priority, that also works as well. You can also run Urshifu Water, Choice Scarf Urshifu Water, because obviously the Scarf Surging Strikes will just completely tear through a Ground Tera Calyrex-Shadow. Ground Tera Calyrex-Shadow isn't really run with the Scarf. It's usually with the Sash. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not a very common option, but like I said, it might increase this season thanks to all the Miraidon increase. So yeah, lots of Calyrex-Shadows to look at here. I do see the Ground Tera, but it is on a Focus Sash, like I would guess. Another Ground Tera Focus Sash, one right here. Another Ground Tera Focus Sash. Like, I'm not seeing Ground Tera on Scarf. So that pretty much means that this could just completely just kind of destroy that Ground Tera, punish the Miraidon counterplay. So that's something to consider right there. When you're seeing what Tera types are threatening to the main counter you have, you can have like a fallback option, just like the Urshifu right there. And that's just one of these like very many examples that I can give you guys right there, right? Because there's so many different situations that can happen. So that's the bulk. This is like the bulk and offense option, and then this is like these are like the speed options with the scarfs and everything. You could also just run like, for example, agility. So some teams run screens. So you have Grimstone, right? Grimstone is obviously famous for setting up screens. You have the Prankster ability to guarantee the priority of the screen. So if you put up light screen against that Calyrex-Shadow, you pretty much can nullify most options it has because Calyrex-Shadow relies on that offense pretty much. You could get Encored, but at the end of the day, you got the screen up. You can let up another Pokemon in, like a Miraidon, for example. So sometimes you'll see like Electric Seed or some type of setup Miraidon, and this allows it to get a Calm Mind plus Agility setup. And this is keep in mind this is behind the screen, so it's very safe. So yeah, this is a very easy option to pretty much nullify or just reduce the damage from Astral Barrage, because that's pretty much what it comes down to right here. Because you want to be able to be versatile against all the Calyrex Tera options as well. So even if you call Minding, you can still see if that thing wants to go grass or ground or something while you're getting that special defense boost or your speed boost behind the screens. So that's the concept right there. Screens makes it very easy. And Gripstyle in general can just cripple Calyrex-Shadow because you have that dark typing which resists Astral Barrage, and then you can also use support moves like Thunder Wave to make it slower than a certain threat on your team. You can use Parting Shot to allow another Pokemon to come in easier, and you can also use Trick with a Lagging Tail to make that pretty much guarantee that Pokemon being slower than everything else on your team, which all these options are used a fair bit. And then if you want a attack, a Spirit Break is a great option to just drop the special attack and do decent damage to any Tera on Calyrex-Shadow. And then you have Foul Play to just 1-hit KO the Calyrex-Shadow, and it can also do a lot of damage to whatever wants to switch in, like a Landers, for example. Landers can't really switch into Foul Play too well unless it's like fully defensive. It's all about being able to threaten everything behind it too, right? Like, it's not just a Calyrex-Shadow that you need to consider, it's the core. So that's like a basic option right there. And then also we just straight up have the walls, right? So some walls that I can name are Alola Muck. So Alola Muck obviously resists the Astral Barrage, and then it also doesn't really take any super effective damage from the main coverage options, like resisting that grass and meaning that psychic, really important. Draining Kiss won't really touch this thing because obviously that special defense and HP are very high, so just natural special bulk. Only thing it has to fear is the Terra Ground, Terra Blast, pretty much. Which, yeah, that could be a very big problem, but that's the only thing it has to fear. And then Muck can just run a Black Sludge to keep that thing healthy so it can switch into Calyrex-Shadow multiple times. And it can also threaten switch-ins with knockoff threaten switch-ins with a Poison Jab that has an increased chance of poisoning due to Poison Touch. I believe it's around 50% or 60% or something like that. So Muck is a very good wall against Calyrex-Shadow. Also doesn't have to worry about Encore that much unless it unless the Calyrex-Shadow tears to a bad matchup and then it Encores your knockoff or something. But that's not really gonna happen too many times. But yeah. And then also we have the obviously Chansey. Chansey slash Blissey can Astral Barrage and wall Calyrex-Shadow out. Only problem is you need to run a Shadow Ball to actually deal damage to Calyrex-Shadow, because Seismic Toss, which is the main weapon, does not damage it at all. So that's what you're gonna have to do right there. So if we go to Pokemon check out Chansey's usage. Yeah, there are a few teams that use Chansey, so let me see what they did. Okay, so this one doesn't. Okay, so this one has Softball, Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, and Seismic Toss. So no hit points on the Calyrex-Shadow. It does have Thunder Wave. So it looks like this team kind of relies on Muck to wall out Calyrex-Shadow in its entirety. And this one, I guess, doesn't have a lot of Muck, but it has Chansey. So this Chansey might have a way to, yeah. I mean, it has, that's a icy wind. I guess it has a way of hitting it, but the Thunder Wave is mainly what is going to help there as well, because then it just allows the either one of these two Pokemon, the Bandit Ho or the Spixmariton, to outspeed. And that's pretty much it. Like, a defensive Pokemon with Thunder Wave is really helpful right there at stopping the Calyrex in its tracks. But yeah, these two are pretty much the walls you'll see to deal with Calyrex-Shadow. So that's pretty much the three ways you can go about it. You can wall it out, you can have bulky offense, or you can have a scarf setup team, or a team with a scarf Pokemon on it. Because notice how it's different from the last generation, right? So if you had a Calyrex-Shadow last season, or last generation, one of the options to deal with it was, simply using Shadow Sneak or Sucker Punch, but now that option isn't really on the table anymore due to terrestrialization. But there is still a way to force it to Terra, and that you can deal with it that way. So one example is obviously Qianpao or Dark Urshifu with a Sash. And these obviously force Calyrex-Shadow to Terra by threading dark moves on it, and obviously, as well as priority moves, because that Sucker Punch is really important to punish the Calyrex-Shadow. Or you can also run like a Pokemon with Shadow Sneak like Mimikyu. And then what these priority moves basically do is they force Calyrex-Shadow to Terra. So Calyrex-Shadow, when it Terras out of the Ghost typing, that opens up a opportunity for a Banded Dragonite to come in and use Extreme Speed. So Banded Dragonite especially has obviously been very popular amongst Regulation G and Regulation I, just because of that just high power and guaranteed a hit through with multi-scale. So if you have Banded Extreme Speed, that's gonna, this Sucker Punch will unlock the Banded Extreme Speed for happening. So it can basically allow you to tie down the opponent's Calyrex-Shadow, including terrestrialization. So with terrestrialization in mind, this is a very good game plan if you want to run a more offensive game plan. You can run Assault Vest with like a Dark type Pokemon, and then Dragonite. Having all these options can make you have a very, very flexible game plan. It doesn't force you to run a certain Pokemon just to counter the Calyrex-Shadow. Because at the end of the day, Calyrex-Shadow has options to circumvent its counterplay. Like I said, you have Encore, you have Nasty Plot, which can allow it to break through certain Pokemon no matter what. You have Trick with the Choice Scarf as well. And then you have obviously the Tera Blast, which can be fighting, ground, even water right here. So yeah, lots of options, but if you have a versatile game plan that can force it to Terra and punish it for doing anything, you're pretty much good to go. And as for Dragonite, if you click on Dragonite's number 9 in usage, obviously most are Terra normal to boost extreme speed and make it immune to Astral Barrage. So yeah, like a lot of these a lot of these Dragonites are banded. So for example, this team has a banded Dragonite. So yeah, banded Dragonite, extreme speed. So this team has multiple ways to force the opponent's Calyrex-Shadow to Terra. Qianpao automatically forces it because Sucker Punch potential. Your own Calyrex-Shadow can force it. Opponent's Calyrex to Terra as well because of the Astral Barrage, and the opponent won't know your item. So the compatibility is already there. So yeah, that's pretty much a really good way of dealing with it. So that pretty much wraps up this video. I just wanted to give my thoughts on it and explain how it's not as simple as just using a wall to counter it, because that's like it's a very basic way of going about it. And with the terrestrialization metagame, it's actually gonna hurt if you only have walls for it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.